On December 7th, I was an honor student. I was the class treasurer. I've been on the honor roll every quarter in high school. I was in 11th grade. I was 16 years old. On December 8th, I was arrested for carjacking. I carjacked a man that was asleep in his car with a friend of mine. And the next day, we got caught trying to use his credit card to buy a bunch of stuff from the store that we couldn't afford. And that's it. And, I think about how my life all changed in 30 minutes. The truth is, it's hard to sort of recognize that everything you are is seeded in the moment of your greatest failure. I got locked up when I was 16. First person in my family to go to prison. My mom had a hard time dealing with it. And to this day, it took me getting released to recognize that I might be able to explain what incarceration did to me. I might be able to explain what spending a year in solitary confinement did to me, but I'll never really explain what it did to her. Because while I was incarcerated, I didn't know that every day that I was locked up, my mom was locked up too. And I did 8.5 years, and when I was released at the age of 24, but the very first job I applied for, they said, "Have you ever been convicted of a felony in the past 7 years?" And I was able to say no, because I had been convicted nearly 9 years ago at that point. But as an employee there, I watched the manager time and time again deny others jobs who had come straight out of prison. And the reason they denied them the job is because, one, they didn't understand that to say, "Look, I just got locked up, I just got out of prison, I'm trying to get my life together," was not something that people wanted to hear. I was the manager of a bookstore, and I found a lot of women coming in buying books, and they weren't often buying books for their children. So I said, I'll start a book club. It was just about getting 5 or 10 young boys together with the same book in their hand and showing them how literature was a platform to talk about everything that was going on in society. And a lot of times, to see the positive happen, you have to reach your hand out and you have to be an agent for that change to occur. I mean, that picture was on the front of a newspaper, and it wasn't on the front of a newspaper for committing a crime. It was on the front of a newspaper for loving books. But what I learned from all that is, those kids needed an opportunity too. I mean, this was a narrative that wasn't being told. See, the lie that we tell the public is that if we shun people who have been in prison, we only affect those people. The lie that we tell the public is that we don't affect each other and we don't affect the people who haven't been in prison when we practice discrimination, when we shut doors for no reason. Each time that they suffer, it's a family member in the background that also suffers, that's also wondering, will my child ever be able to redeem themselves? And imagine, if I can't tell people that I was locked up, imagine how afraid my mother was of the sort of social stigmatism that she would have to carry to tell her coworkers that, the bright-eyed young boy that they grew up with was a carjacker at 16. It's just one of those things that, most families aren't able to move beyond. The reality is that the only reason we had these walls up is because I think as a society, we are afraid to believe in rehabilitation. But humans fail all the time. And it's not that the recidivism rates or people go back to prison so much that if you give a person a chance, you ruin them. The truth is just that we hear the stories of people who went back to prison so often that we think that that's the only reality. And the reason why so many people go back to prison is because there are so few people who are willing to say, but I will at least do for you what I would do for anybody else that came into my office looking for a job. I would give you an honest opportunity. And most people just don't have that happen. Most people have doors closed in their face before they get a chance to explain who they are. My judge told me I'm under no illusion that sending you to prison will help. That's something that will haunt me. If it doesn't help them, it doesn't help society. And I think that's a really difficult thing to deal with, and that's what I'll be pursuing, telling those stories in hopes of changing the system. And I think if we approach it that way, we'll make decisions that lead to rehabilitation. We'll make decisions that lead to change.